Sam McCall, physical therapist, posture princess, lover of movement. Today, we're going to talk about twist your hips to save your spine. Okay, so a couple of things. One, if you watch belly dancers or go online and look at belly dancers move, you will notice that their hips just go in so many directions and their spine follows. Okay, logical. Now, what is very in vogue today is to do the opposite. And that is to drop the tailbone, which immediately takes the natural arch out of your spine, plant the hips, hold, and turn. This really puts a lot of stress on the lumbar spine, unnecessary stress. When you drop your tailbone, now you are going to drop your tailbone if you're doing a belly dancing move, if you're going to roll across the floor, if you're all of a sudden in a fighting moment, but it's a very transitional movement to drop your tailbone. It is not a foundational movement. Because, let me get the spine. Because this beautiful thing called your spine is built to stack well. Now, I'm not going to get in a whole lot of this. I'm just going to get into enough of it to give you a little bit of an explanation of what I'm talking about. This is your pelvis, your hips. This is your sacrum, and this is your tailbone, okay? So, tailbone right here. I don't have a whole lot of curve in that spine. The very bottom vertebra is called L5. And where it meets with the sacrum, there is what's called a sacral arch. You can see it better from here. Oh, yeah. So this little piece right here, there is an arch, and then each vertebra locks into each other with these little guys on the back. Now, if this spine was right, it'd be a little straighter right here, okay? So the curve is at the base, very base, and then naturally it would be a little straighter. So this curve, this little piece right here, L5, is shaped to be in that position where it's wider and it's skinnier, and it's just perfectly shaped to have a small arch. Now, this right here where these spinous processes come along, where these two vertebrae meet, let's say L4, L5, they meet here in the body, and they meet back here on what's called a facet. Now, let me explain. Facets means little face. So where the facets come together, that's like two little faces coming together, okay? And on the lumbar spine, in the lumbar spine area, they are kind of like this, meaning they meet this way. And then as you go up the spine and get to the neck, they're kind of opened up here where they meet so you can turn your head and stuff a lot. So think about the lumbar spine is not big on rotation segmentally like your neck. You know, we got a lot here. The lumbar spine is designed to rotate, but kind of more as a unit. That's an exaggeration a tiny bit. But it is well connected to be strong and move forward back, flex and extend. This plane. You know, go in this way really well, and this way it's a little more limited. Okay, but it's right next door and on top of your hips, which have tremendous amount of mobility, right? We can move our thighs, we can move our hips, forward, back, and all around, and the spine follows. So this is very basic, but very important, because today, with all the core movement people are doing, they are tending to take away that natural arch, create a lot of tension, and then turn. There's nothing that the spine likes about that. It's very abnormal to do that. And so I'm just going to give you that piece because there's so much information out there, and this is like 25 years. I was doing this before core was born. And now, this is not to slam that concept. This is more of to say we need a better understanding of what our foundation is, and then when your tailbone goes down and up, that you're already starting from a very stable place. So like a belly dancer, they're relaxed here, they get a slight arch, they're going to move all around, but they're not going to live in that position. It also has a big impact on where your thigh bone is. A lot of people ignore the thigh bone. If my butt's tucked, my thigh bone's forward. If my butt's back a little, like when you're a little kid, they're back a little. This is subtle, but when you do it, it may feel extreme. You may feel like you're really sticking your butt out. So, I needed to give that little preface so that when I go into turning, you can figure this a little bit better, and you practice with me. Please practice this with me. So all you need is like a couch or a chair and a pillow to put on top of it, okay? So what I'm going to do, and I may do this on the corner so you get a side view better. Oh, I like that, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand with this pillow between my legs so you can have a side view. I'm going to put my fingers on the arch of my spine. So my back is nice and straight, but the muscles have developed on the sides. So I'm not bent over like this with a lot of weakness. I have a development of muscles on both sides of my spine. So there's a little indentation, or I call a groove. And I put my fingers in that groove so that I know, well, lots of reasons, but what is I know what's happening with my spine with my hands. I relax my belly. I take my buttocks way up in the air. My spine is flat and my spine is straight. It's like I've made my back a table, and I sit on the crotch of my shorts. Okay? So most people feel like they're sitting forward, and I put a pillow here so it's easier to do. I'm actually trying not to sit on the pockets of my shorts. Now, I said this one time, and I don't think that I made this clear. I don't wear my pockets way down here. I wear my pockets up on my butt. So I don't think I made that clear. So if my pockets are not up here on the cheeks of my rear end, this isn't going to work. If I wear my pockets here, somebody said, well, that didn't make sense. Well, probably didn't make sense because maybe that person was wearing their pockets here. Okay, so my pockets are up here, so I'm going to sit just a little bit on my pockets, but more not. So I put my hands in my pockets. That's another way of doing it. And I sit on my crotch, and I don't have a lot of my body resting on my booty. I do it on my pubic bone. Okay. Now this is important because if I'm going to start turning, I need to be able to set up right. Now, I'm going to do this with the idea that we are doing this in a car. So you're like, oh, I don't have a pillow in the car. I know. I did this just to make it a little easier for you. So if you're in the car, what you would probably have to do is scoot forward and get on your crotch. Like if you're back here and you're trying to turn and you're trying to look, you're not going to get as much out of this. But let's just say, and I'm using the pillow so that I have better visual, you can see my movement better. So sit on the front, and I go away from the back of the seat, and I want to turn. Now I could turn my neck, I could turn my shoulder, and I could turn and reach, and I could hurt myself because I'm putting all the stress up here. But what if I put the stress down here? What if I really cranked away at my hips that like that? There are muscles in my hips that really appreciate this turn, turn, turn. You will begin to feel your legs wanting to get involved. So if I'm going to turn right, and I'm going to think about below my belly button, the center of my body, I want to turn that right. I don't need to turn my head right yet. That goes last. I press into this leg, I press, and I turn my belly button and my hips. Then my spine turns some, and then I can turn my head. So there's this gradual release, and there's a gradual amount. The force is heavy here, and the force becomes less and less as I go up, which makes sense, because this is this part of your body is ready to turn. So the turning is really in stressing, if you want to stress something, the hips. So if you want to practice this, this is a great thing to practice to get stronger in the hips and to become more centered. Now I did that for you for the car. Now let's just do it for function. So what I mean by that is if I put my hands on my hip bones, so my thumb is in the back and my fingers are in the front, and I feel the bone under each hand, and I've clasped my hands, and I turn my belly button to the left, I'm going to push through my right leg. And if I turn my belly button to the right, I'm pushing through my left leg. And what's really cool is you start to feel lots of muscles engage and really take action that you may not have known you had. Now this movement is important in all human movements to have. Sometimes some movements are not going to be noticeable when you're just walking. You may not notice that you slightly turn like that from your hips when you walk, if you're walking well or walking more in balance. But you will notice it if you start to break it down and practice it here, and then you walk, you may just feel more fluid. You may not go, I feel myself turning. Okay, you may not feel yourself turning. But this movement usually feels really good to people that have back pain or people who just feel stiff in their hips. Now when I sit here, just to show you, my back is like this. Okay, it didn't change. It's just got a little arch at the base like when you were a kid. And I sit on my crotch and I'm just maintaining what I just showed you. Okay? Now if this is your first time, you may feel like your butt's sticking way out and you got a big old arch and all sorts of things. So a mirror is very handy. If you can look in a mirror and see, wow, this doesn't look as extreme as it feels, it's very helpful. I used a mirror a lot in the early stages of doing this because my sense of feel of where my body was, which is called proprioception, was very different than what reality was. So you got to start to see that it doesn't look so weird, but it may feel weird at first. So I'm on the crotch, I feel kind of forward, I have my hands on my hips, and I like to literally feel like I use my hands to turn my hips a little, because that's good, and my tummy's relaxed, and I push through my right, and I can feel all sorts of different muscles, and I connect to the ground, and then I turn and I connect to the ground. Now, I've taught turning before, but I was turning and walking and moving my feet. Okay, that was a different kind of turning because I wasn't planted then. I don't want you to plant and turn because in walking, your feet are designed to move and turn. So that, I don't mean that to be confusing, but if I'm sitting here, I'm planted, okay? So just know if your feet are planted, you've got to turn from your hips and maintain the small arch in your spine, okay? So it's really fun to watch a belly dancer move because you can say to yourself, okay, there's a lot going on in those hips, and that spine is following that. And if a belly dancer does do an extreme movement, it's forward back. It's like that. It's an undulation, which would not interrupt in any way the structure of the spine. So your spine needs to be set in its natural, strong position. Then think about moving and let your muscles work. So I'm a structure trainer type person, not a muscle person. So muscles follow structure, and you've heard me say structure governs function, which means the structure is in control of the natural way you move. So go look up govern and go look up function, and you will see that it's just saying that structure, your structure, is going to rule how you naturally move. And that is so wonderful. You can start relaxing your stomach right now and know you're going to move really well and strong because your structure is in the right place. Okay, that was 15 minutes and 30 seconds, which is what I like to do. Now it's Q&A time.
Terry in Tucson, doesn't dropping the tail lengthen your spine, and isn't that a good thing?
No, it doesn't, and no, it isn't. You know what the little trick is? If you want to lengthen your spine, which I think that is what they're attempting to do, I agree with you on that, is that you want to do it more from above the lower back. So what I often see is, let's just say someone feels short in their back. I think that's what you're talking about. And we want to lengthen this part of the back. So we think, well, I will drop my tailbone and look at all that wonderful length. Looks like a logical thing to do, but you're unlocking a very powerful, stable area. Okay, how can we lengthen without unlocking my stability of my spine? Well, this is a little advanced, and you might have to go to my book or you have to go to some of my other videos, but it's right here. My upper spine has a tendency to lift. I tend to have a tightness here. So if I bring, let's do an exaggeration. Let's keep all of this as is. Let's just exaggerate and tip my rib cage that way. Now, I'm not tipping my pelvis, I'm only tipping my rib cage. I am lengthening my spine, making it longer, by tipping my rib cage down in front. Now, we don't want to live like this. We want to get back upright. So I'm going to keep my chest down with my hands and my front of my body. And I'm going to try to keep my chest down and stretch my neck up. So it's usually the shortness here and the shortness here is where the problem really is. That's part of the problem. Another part of the problem is here. If I'm tight in here, it tends to shorten my back too. So there's movements I teach people to open and get the hips in a more appropriate place. So the tightness usually sits up high, and the tightness usually sits in the hips, but it isn't as simple as just dropping your tailbone. It would be wonderful if that could solve the problem, but it creates another problem. And I had to help people undo a lot of this tension that they have created by doing that, and just let that spine go back to where it belongs and begin to really work upper spine. So I tip, I keep my chest down, and I stretch my neck up. And that begins to take that spine and give it that length that we all understand and want more of. I don't see a whole lot of people like this out in the world. And you need to use your booty. All the great athletes you see out there that run around they've got some good glutes. And if you have good glutes, you're not tucking your butt. Kind of think about it that way. That's a piece. It's a little more complicated. The body's not that, the body is complicated. Structure. It's complicated, which is really a gift to us. Because if it was really, 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 really simplified, we couldn't do a whole lot of things structurally. So there's a little bit of complexity there, and I try to simplify it a little bit. So it makes sense in that you can have something you can use. Okie doke. I hope that helped.
Diane in El Segundo, why does absolutely everybody, my trainer, my coach
Yep.
says, drop your tailbone.
I know. Did you know that that is really only 25 years old? And you may say, 25 years is a long time. This became popular when core became the thing. And core was born, the concept of core. And I'm not saying you don't have a core. I'm just talking about the concept. It came very in vogue around 2000, give or take. So I'm going to send y'all off to go read a really good research article that I think is good because it teaches you something. And it's called The Myth of Core Stability. And the reason I want you to read it is to broaden your perspective of the human movement. Now, I was 40 in 2000, and I was doing this before core was bought. And the core thing came, the tailbone dropping and the core thing kind of came into vogue together. They've been talking about dropping the tailbone a little bit, but it really became the thing. I cannot, this wave of thought is very strong, and I'm not trying to push you away from it. What I really want to do is offer another option, and you pick the one you like. Now, there are physical therapists out there that agree with me, and you can go and look at, I think they're in Australia, you can look them up, and there's a lot of people, but really, does that matter? What matters is try this and see if you like it. Don't believe me, don't believe your trainer, don't believe your coach, and don't believe your physical therapist or your doctor. Believe yourself. Test this. Play with it. Get on my videos and play with bending. Play with relaxing your belly. Play with getting your neck strong. See what happens. It is your body, and that's where I feel we have gotten lost. We're not empowering you and your experience to make the decision. And that's really what I'm about. I'm not about getting in a big dance with the tail drop or not tail drop. I had to go there so that I could help you understand how I view turning. Yes, there you go.
Wally in Seattle says, my legs and my thighs are so tight, it's hard for me to straighten my legs and keep my booty out. What to do?
Your legs are too. I would practice this bending position. This is a stretch for many people. So if it's hard for you, I'm taking this in. Your legs, I'm assuming, are kind of tight, so and so it pulls your bottom down. And if you straighten your legs and try to put your bottom out, it won't work. Well, then practice sitting and bending, because you should feel a stretch in the back of your legs. I'm going to do this sideways. So I put my fingers on my spine, soften those knees a little, and then right here you're going to say, wow, if I keep that arch, I am just stretching like crazy here. Nothing wrong with that. It's also strengthening. And then you sit down, and you keep your fingers on that arch and your back straight, and you do that about 10 to 15 times, and immediately you will begin to have more choices of where to put your pelvis and where to put your legs and pelvis and spine. You'll have more mobility. So I think practicing a simple movement that moves your structure more in balance is really helpful. It's real important too, because you're learning a lot when you do that. You're learning about bending, you're learning about where your hips are, you're learning this, you're learning that. You're learning so much more than you would ever believe if you just do that sit to stand thing. How's that?
Bev in Albuquerque says, so in the car, does the turn start in my tailbone or belly button?
Crotch. Okay, so let's take this away and be a car for a second. It's flat. I'm sitting in the car, I'm leaning back. But now I want to scoot forward a little because I got to have room. So you're going to come forward a little on your crotch. Now, I could twist right here, or I could push through my leg and turn my belly button. But if sort of feels like you're grinding right here where my shorts are. I'm grinding into the chair a little. Or the, whatever this is. I don't know. Anyway, I'm grinding here so that I have freedom here. So I'm really turning deep in here, using my legs so that I can put my arm in the back and I can look back. So the turn, so you're right here in your inner thigh and your groin. You're sitting forward. You got to scoot forward a little so that you can get that nice turn. You'll see people who drive trucks, if they're having to back up something really big, they'll kind of get forward and get in a position to really be able to see. I've seen that before. You know, we just are kind of lazy and we just rip our neck around and look around and do like that. But sit forward, be on your crotch, turn. Crotch stability, not core stability. That is a bumper sticker I want to create after my mother passes away. I don't think she'd be really happy. Okay, go ahead.
Cindy in San Diego says, when I start that turn, should I feel my shoulders turn last, or should the turn be all at the same time, all the way up and down my spine?
The shoulders turn last. It's very nice. So it's kind of like it's a very comfortable turn. My hips turn. I like to do it in a sequence. So I like to turn my hips, and then that frees up my mid-spine. And if I turn my hips a little more, that frees up my upper. You know, it's like you can feel it. You can feel the give. It gives. And so it's hard at first because we're so used to doing our chest first, you know. But I would like to do my hips, my belly button first, and get a really good turn, and then let the rest. And if I don't have enough, I give a little more turn in those hips, and I press through those legs. Then there's no injury. There's strength, and you actually get stronger in your hips. More mobile, too.
Let's see here. Peter in Flagstaff asks, what should my knees be doing when my feet are planted and I'm twisting?
They just naturally turn. Like, I don't really think a lot about my knees because the movement's moving through the foot to the hip. If I think about moving my knees in or think about moving my knees out, I'll get off. Knees are like the middle, like the bridge to foot and hip. So they're there just to ease me into the movement. So make it be something where you feel like it feels natural. I'm going from my foot through my leg to my hip, okay? I'm going through, but I'm not exaggerating any move. Now, if you have tight knees, you may feel like, I feel that in my knee. It shouldn't feel a bad thing, but just start to reconnect to that foot and reconnect to that hip, or connect more so the knee doesn't feel like it's getting too much stress. That's what knees don't like. They don't like doing the job that the foot and the hip should be doing. That's why they get really messed up sometimes.
Last question, Robbie in San Jose. I've got a lower back that's gimpy. Mm-hmm. Can I twist safely? Because now I just turn my whole body like I'm a robot.
Yeah. But start with your hips, because that frees your spine up from, it helps your spine be stable in its natural position and a slight curve, and those muscles back there are slightly engaged, and then you put that stress, good stress, in your hips, and you should feel like the spine likes it. If you don't have that natural arch in your back that I showed you, you have to get that. Most gimpy backs that I see, people don't have the natural arch. They've dropped their tailbone. And if you put it, you should test this. I have done this with so many people that have had back surgeries and back pain and you name it. I mean, I've seen, you name it, I've seen it, just about. I ask them, put a big arch in your back. And if they say that hurts, then I say, back off. Back off. And if they like, well, that feels okay, then be there. But most people don't have a stable back because they don't have their natural arch. So don't be afraid to go to a little bit of extreme of arching, but if it hurts, back off. Let your body sort of tell you instead of me. We are way too informed here and not enough informed here. So with my work, forget that I am controversial to core and all that. Forget it. Just go play with this. See if you like it. This is experience-based therapy. It is not Lisa Ann McCall telling you what to do. It's yours. You were born with it. I'm just bringing it back in style, hopefully. A belly and a butt. Yeah, baby. Okay, I'll see you next week at around this time. 12:31. I'm not sure. But anyway, thank you very much. Subscribe, share, like. That's good enough. Don't you think? That's good enough.